by doing research on the internet only, you are going to only create something that looks like everything else. We are so close technologically to being replaced by AI who can use a software to create something pretty. Getting on the computer for inspiration, there's a lot of negatives to it, in my opinion, and in my long experience. The thing that I implement into my process and that I teach is the word map method. And this method allows you to always have a starting point, to start to come up with ideas.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm super excited to have Brandi Sea here with me today. And she's been a designer for 20 years, and she is also a coach for other designers to help them empower them in their creativity and unlock any blocks to actually creations and in their design work. So I'm super excited to have her here. We're going to be talking about graphic design inspiration today and give you some actionable tips to do to help you when you're feeling stuck or not able to actually really be creative, or you don't know what to do. So thank you so much, Brandi, for being here. I'm super excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. We kind of match, and so it's a wonderful day to record, and I'm super happy to be here.
Yes, absolutely. We're complimenting each other. Awesome. So now I know that you have a process to actually unlock the actual creativity of designers. And I'm just very curious, how would you, if somebody is running into something with, they sit down at the computer, they get some project and they just do not know what to do, and they've tried different things, what would you say would be the right steps to take to actually unlock their creativity?
Okay, step one. Step away from the computer. If you are starting your projects by opening up your computer and getting your program going, you're starting off all wrong, and that's going to be part of your big creative block, is thinking that you're going to just be able to sit down and just make something. So the process that I have used over the past decade or so and really honed in on starts with not even using any technology whatsoever, unless you consider a pencil technology, I guess.
Not really.
It's not a chisel. It's not a hammer and chisel, so I guess it is sort of technology. It's sort of like analog tools for a digital age. You have to start analog in order to get your brain going. So I think when you start by thinking, I need to start with an idea, it gets really messy, because then you put a lot of pressure on yourself. You start feeling that intense imposter syndrome, the idea that I had a good idea before, but I'm never going to have a good idea again. And so what happens is then you self-sabotage yourself as a creative. So aside from the creative brief and the design, the brand or project strategy that comes before you start creating, the thing that I implement into my process and that I teach is the word map method. And this method allows you to always have a starting point, to start to come up with ideas. So instead of starting with ideas, this process helps you start with words. And as designers, we're supposed to communicate, right? That is our primary objective, is to communicate and to solve problems. How do we communicate? Visually, yes. But those visuals can be transformed into words. So instead of starting with that, I work the other way, where you always start with words. So you use the word map to come up with a concept, to come up with your colors, and to come up with all the visual elements and things that you will actually need for your design. So before you even touch any computer or any design program, you are starting with just your brain, a thesaurus possibly, and pen and paper.
That's really cool. So does this apply to basically any type of design? It could apply to if you're doing a brand identity, if you're doing a logo, you're doing a package design, a website, the same process would apply to any of those, right?
Absolutely, because for any kind of design, you need a concept, right? You need a driving idea, a foundation. And sidebar, there's a lot of confusion in the creative industry on what this word concept means. And it has come to mean different ideas. And the true basis of concepts and how those should work is there should be one overarching concept. And if you want it to look slightly differently, those are different executions. Those are not different concepts. So if you need a concept for something you're doing, whether this is stage design, production design for a film, product design, industrial design, fashion design, anytime you would possibly need a concept that needs to be represented visually, this process works for that.
I love that. So like, let's say, let's take an example of what, how this would work. So like if I'm stuck, I'm designing, I have to design some brand identity for a client, and it's for a kitchen brand, and they've given me some information about, I should have they kind of want to talk to millennials. They don't really have a target audience of being older people, but they really want to be a hip type of kitchen brand. So what would you say would be the starting point if you're have nowhere to go? Maybe you've looked on Pinterest, you don't really know what to do to get your juices going. So what would be the next step there?
So if you've got the target audience pretty well nailed down, that is a really big thing to do, first of all. Not just, obviously I know this is just an example, but just as another little sidebar, because that's what I like to do apparently. Making sure that that person is clearly identified. It's not a group of people. It is a person that you are talking to. Give them a name, give them all the details, all of that stuff. Once you know who they are, part of the word map thing that comes into play is getting words from your client on how they would describe their business or what it is that they're trying to achieve. And those are the words that start the word map. So say you've got your concept, you've got your colors, you've got your visuals. Say you've gone through that process of the word map method and you've got these starting places. So now, Brandi, do I get on the computer now to look for some designs? Nope, you do not. You do not get on the computer. Getting on the computer for inspiration, there's a lot of negatives to it, in my opinion, and in my long experience. One is you can spend all day scrolling through Behance or Dribbble or Pinterest, and there is no end. So you start to get overwhelmed. There's too much input, and you start to feel like, I'm never going to make anything this cool. Or you see all of these things, and because that's what you're putting into your brain, and then you get directly onto the design program, you are going to purposely or inadvertently copy to some extent something that you saw, which, how is that your creative voice? That is not your voice. That is you translating someone else's voice and putting it into your computer and using different colors or maybe a different font. And that is where the homogenization of design has come right now. It's everything looks like Canva, everything looks like this or that. And while there's nothing new under the sun, by doing research on the internet only, you are going to only create something that looks like everything else. So the step that is different in how I suggest and I teach designers at any level from beginner to mid-career that just maybe don't know this is have a collection of books. I've got lots of design books to get out, not just to go get fresh air and clear your head, to actually go outside into your environment, to travel to wherever you can to get different input. So if you know your color scheme is green, blue, and yellow, go out into your city and look for things that exist in that color scheme. Look, if you know that you want to do some sort of grid layout for your design, for your logo, if you know that you want it to be more geometric, go outside, go walk around, look at architecture books, look at history, look at fine art, look at Mondrian. There are so many other things that you can look at instead of searching on logosites.com. I'm not going to call any out, and typing in geometric logo for whatever. And then you get all these ideas and it's like, ooh, I like that. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to change it slightly. And things get messy and you lose your own voice that way. Does this answer your question? I know I'm very long-winded.
This has been awesome, actually. And what I really love is that if you go look at your own Instagram, it's flooded with exactly what you're saying. You totally practice what you preach, and you go and you see you're in Paris or you're in New York, and I love the inspiration. You always take these cool pictures of like this fountain that you had at one of the restaurants you went to, and I mean that is really drawing inspiration from the world, which is what you're talking about. And I think this is really good advice, and to bring a unique character to what you're doing and to designs. So I absolutely not long-winded.
Right. Well, because every single one of us is unique. And what's been drilled into so many designers over the decades that it has been a thing to do for a profession is that you lose your voice when you take on a client, and you have to somehow turn into this crazy shapeshifter and be like, I am now the client's voice. Except it doesn't have to be that way. If they just want someone who can use the tools, we are so close technologically to being replaced by AI who can use a software to create something pretty. And why would we not want to put our voice into it? We can never be replaced by a machine if they are hiring us for our voice, for our I in the world. If you and I were to go into downtown New York City with our phones, our cameras, and I'd say, let's take 10 minutes and take pictures of everything that is inspiring to us, whatever that is. We would both come back with completely different photographs. And so that's another part of the process that I teach, is how to capture your own inspiration and not just go look for things, but also make sure you are capturing that. Make sure you are, maybe you don't know what you're going to use it for someday. But if it's interesting and inspiring to you, if you see a building or a color scheme or a texture or a pattern, capture it somehow. It doesn't have to be beautiful. I have a lot of experience in photography. It's sort of my side passion. So I can take very nice pictures, but that's not even the point. The point is, if I see something interesting, I want to capture it so I have it for later for my own personal research bank.
That's excellent. And I actually remember doing that myself when I was living in LA. I went to downtown and just was taking pictures at all sorts of angles. And I had a fellow designer who was doing that too with different cameras. And we came back with completely different things, just like you're saying. And we actually were able to use those in our design projects we were working on. It was actually totally what you're saying makes sense. And yeah, even going out in the streets, if you don't live in one of these big cities, you can find inspiration where you are, and that can bring some sort of local flavor to it, and that unique element. So
absolutely. And it's not just, I have had pushback from people that don't have the means to travel. It's a priority for us as a family, so we make that a budgeting thing. We make sure that we save money to travel. But not anyone has traveled during the last year, right? It's been COVID, and I've only basically been around my house and like the surrounding property where I can run. And having constraints as a designer is the absolute best thing for your creativity. When you have a box to work inside, you are forced to be more creative. So it's like if someone came to you, Lauren, and was like, you know what, we have $5 billion and I'm going to build a spaceship. Please make me a brand. Whatever you want. Okay. But if they said, I have like $5,000 and here's our brand voice. Here's where we are hoping to go with this company. Here's the kind of clientele we're hoping to fly to the moon someday. Then you have constraints. Then you can be creative to the max inside this box that you've been given and make it really amazing.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective. Otherwise, you can get overwhelmed, like you're saying, when you scroll through these sites, and it can be endless. And then you just kind of are like, okay, this didn't really help as much as I expected it to. So I love this new idea of actually just drawing from, especially books. I'm a huge book addict. I have old Renaissance books and more modern books and animation books and all sorts. And I love just browsing through them. And I feel like it's almost a nicer way to get inspiration rather than the endless streams of internet that we've gotten so used to.
Right. And one of those boundaries when using books is also limit the books. Because if you're, bibliophiles like us, or if you're not, you could still look for 3 days at books if you don't set some boundaries. Also, don't look at logo books if you're doing logo design. Don't look at book cover books if you're looking to design a book cover. Look at completely opposite or adjacent design inspiration if you're going to look for that, because then you have the opportunity to mix and mesh those seemingly dissimilar things to create something new and interesting. Sorry, I keep poking at my ear. These things keep pulling out.
So that's okay.
It is what it is.
Okay. Okay. Is that okay now?
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just, for your audience, it might be distracting. Sorry, audience.
It's not distracting me. You're good. Well, cool. So is there any other points that you would like to share before we wrap up for this topic? Is there any other points you want to share? I know you have a whole program, that actually a course that helps designers to actually learn this process and really apply it to their own designs. So do you want to say anything about that?
Sure. Yeah. So it's called the Strategic Process Essentials course. It's a mouthful, but the process is a strategic process. And it is that because every single thing that is done in it is for a reason and gives reasons for your designs and gives you a framework. And so this course is a full 12-lesson module. It is over 4 hours of content. You'll see a lot of my face. And I talk about how to research, how to do the word map method, which is my signature framework, in detail, how to find your own voice, how to develop your own uncommon inspiration, what to ask the client in the brief portion before you even start working, what it looks like to present your ideas after you've gone through this process. So it's a whole entire thing, and I'm really proud of it. It's actually only open for registration right now until the end of May of this year, and I'm not sure when I'm going to be opening it up again, but I'm really proud of it, and it's been a long time coming. So yeah, if you want to check it out, it's at brandisea.com/courses, and there's just so much value in there, and I'm thrilled that it's just in the world right now.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay, and I'll have that link in the description for you to check out, for anyone who is watching this to check out. And and then also Brandi has a podcast, which I'm also going to link, which gives lots of great nuggets. I mean, you've given some awesome value bombs in this video, and I really definitely advise you to follow her and actually listen to her podcast. It comes out, it's a weekly podcast, and you have, right now you're in the middle of season. Which season is it now?
It's season 3, but season 0 had over 100 episodes because we weren't doing seasons at that time. We were doing every week all year long. So there's well over 100 episodes now, and we are officially doing 2 seasons a year now. So every week, 12 weeks in the beginning of the year and 12 weeks at the end of the year, and then some bonus episodes in between.
Awesome. Okay, well then there is actually, I've been listening to her back episodes, and there's tons of value for designers and everything about design, even about how to get clients, marketing yourself, more about obviously inspiration, but there's some great value there. So definitely check that out. I'll have that in the description below as well. And then also you can follow her on Instagram at Brandi Sea, and at Design Speaks, right? That's the podcast.
Yeah, Design Speaks podcast.
Design Speaks podcast. Okay, awesome. So thank you, Brandi, for being here. And also, we're going to do another video with Brandi all about content creation ideas for graphic designers. So definitely check that one out. That's going to be coming up in the next few weeks. So definitely look forward to that one as well. Okay, well, thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next time.
Thanks
Bye.
for having me.
Absolutely.